And welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me today is Dr. Tara Kfoury. She is the Director for River Educational Consulting. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you, Errol. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I have a little touchy subject today I would love to speak about. It's really discrimination in the schools through sexual orientation. And it's no longer like the time with you and I where you have male and female, but you have male, female, transvestites, the queer, the there. It's so many different sexual orientations now. And everyone need their legal rights and they want to stay within that legal frame of mind. While at the said very time, there are all kind of bullying and agitation because of who you are or what you are trying to be. Someone that gone contradictory against nature. And this is not to in any way or any form beat up against people because of their sexual orientation. Do you think that today have an impact on the mental stability of the kids who now are in school, or do you think it's something that they all learn to live with?
That's a great, it's definitely a great subject matter to talk about. First and foremost, from the mental health perspective, not accepting a person for who they are actually deeply impacts the mental and emotional health of a child and the development of a child. Yeah. So starting out with that, for instance, if we're going to approach it from the mental and emotional and even psychological standpoint, being told by society or being told by a family member or by friends groups or peer groups that you are not who you're supposed to be according to the other person diminishes the self-esteem, the self-worth, and the self-value, and the confidence, multiple different layers of that individual in and of itself. So I think though that this generation and the generations that have been following, lower than my generation and every future generation after that will actually be more accepting, even though, again, there are always going to be factions of individuals that do not accept differences in personality, religion, culture, whatever. But I do believe that the generations that are coming up are now a lot more accepting of others in regards to many different aspects. So, and that is positive. However, there is still the percentages that don't accept and that demand that the individual fit into what society and what the norm is traditionally.
Okay. One question I want to ask concerning that: should there be separate bathrooms in schools for every different type of sexual orientation, like a bathroom for the lesbian, a bathroom for the gay, a bathroom for the male, one for the female, one for the transvestite? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think many schools around Massachusetts, at least, have already accommodated and proactively designed bathroom situations where there's a typical and standard traditional boys' room, girls' room, staff room. But then there also are non-gender bathrooms, which is the solution. If you do not feel comfortable, or you're a parent who does not feel comfortable having a transgender boy or transgender girl using the bathroom that your child is, then the unisex, non-gender, non-binary bathrooms are the way to go, for sure. And it makes a person feel comfortable to be able to have that private space and use the bathroom and not have to worry about any of the kind of fears that they might encounter, even bullying, for example, in the bathroom, which does still happen. So,
yeah, but in that case, could it encourage rape? I mean, you may have a boy with urgent tendencies for a girl that look beautiful. The girl may feel mad, so therefore she's going to use the men's bathroom. And then the boy who have an eye on her may then ravish her in the bathroom just to say, well, listen, I am the man, you are not. Could that like somewhat bring about some altercation because of neglecting the fact that you are still a woman, even though you try to be a man, and the man who trying to be gay may very well be a man, and his urges come on in the bathroom, while the female who feels she's a man in the bathroom get attacked. You think that is something that can possibly happen?
Well, I think that that's a pretty rare occasion. It doesn't not happen in certain. Sorry, my cat is now trying to make it.
Okay, that's nice.
Working from home. I do think that she's lightening the mood. I think that certainly can happen in any kind of case, but also a boy can just go into a girl's room that's going to, like, it can happen no matter where they are. A girl can go into a boy. We have to remember it's not just man against a female. Females are aggressors at the same time. But I do think that we should never say never that wouldn't happen, but at the same time, I think that's an outlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the southern states, and this is something clearly that like here in Massachusetts is a very liberal state, and people can do about almost anything, even though there's laws in the Constitution. Like, for example, you can't commit fornication in public, because if you do, there's a $30 fine or a minimum of 30 days in prison. And yet still, there are all signs of that happening every day, so that's like through the window. But the southern states who take this thing extremely seriously, right? Like even there recently in Florida, who the governor there just don't like this whole sexual misconduct activity going on in schools where you have lesbian and gays and so forth. In states like that, I mean, how really will this impact the children behavior in terms, not only physical behavior, but being able to learn, get a comfortable learning in school without an interrupt environment of not just the schoolmates know, but what a government is saying. And may very well be the teacher in their own secret ways tormenting the child. I'm not saying that happens, but these things can happen. But knowing for a fact that a government has a potency in stating, well, this we don't want, or you shouldn't read books about this or read books about that, what kind of impact now would that have on the child?
Well, I go back to what I had said right at the beginning. If you're teaching a child that what they feel like or who they are or who they feel they are is told that that's not acceptable, what are you telling the child? That they are not acceptable, that they are not allowed to be who they were meant to be, who they are to be, who they are, right? So it destroys self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. It could lead down the line to mental and emotional dysregulation and unhealth, and could be, even as drastic as hospitalization. So there are a lot in the state of Massachusetts. There are a lot of growing trends towards having transgender and gay and lesbian and LGBTQ plus individuals in the emergency rooms in Boston Children's Hospital and Franciscans that. And we're a pretty accepting state as far as Massachusetts is, pretty accepting and welcoming state. But I fear that in the South, a lot of that goes under the rug, and there is a lot of there are a lot of hospitalizations that are not linked towards having concerns towards social and emotional due to the unacceptance of who that child is. So I think in the long run, the trajectory is very harmful. If you don't meet a child and accept them where they are taught that they are not, they're not godly, they're not worthy, they're not, and what does that do to their brain and their emotional state? It does nothing but unhealthy things.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll like to speak 2 minutes on a certain matter. And I, as a Christian and a pastor also, I had to look at things realistically, and human beings have a tendency of hating people when they're not like them. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that Christ told us not to judge, lest we will be judged with that same measure also. But he holds us to the ability to love each other as he loved us. Mm-hmm. Now, is lesbianism wrong? Is gay wrong? Is being a transvestite wrong? It is all wrong. It's no different than a fornicating man or adulterous man or adulterous woman or a fornicated woman. It's all sin, and God had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for that. But even though that had happened, Christ make it absolutely clear to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Mm-hmm. Judgment is his. We are obligated to love unconditionally. It means because that's a lesbian there, or he's a gay person or transvestite, that we can't give them show the same compassion, mercy, and love that Christ showed for us. Now, people pray about it, and this is where knowledge comes to really play a part, even in Christian society. Mm. We can't pray for these things. Christ warned us. He told us that in these last days, man become lovers of his own flesh. These things must come to pass. Is expecting of, it shall pass. Christ is telling us these things must come to pass. When these things happen, that his presence draweth nigh, right? And his return draweth near. Well then, under God's Son, he said when he sent the rain to fall, both the righteous and the unrighteous gets to enjoy it. When he sends the sun to shine, both the righteous and the unrighteous gets to enjoy it. Mm. So Christ is telling us that there are equality right across the board for everyone. It doesn't matter of what their sexual orientation is. I'm not in position to judge because we all born in sin and shape and iniquity. We got to love our fellow man and our sister, our brothers, the way we love ourselves. It's essential we do this. Now, I said all that to state this. Mm-hmm. Do you think in classrooms that there should be an establishment of awareness? I didn't know everyone don't want to hear about God. It's fine. But there should be some godly principles or some stimulated educational package that states, well, listen, it doesn't matter who you are, we have to learn to accept and respect each other for whoever we are. I think that should be the foundation right now, making mandatory through all schools. I want your opinion on that.
I do. I apologize. My cat just fell off the window. She fell asleep.
Oh dear. I'm sorry. You should put her next to you.
I know. I think I actually approach it, as a fellow Catholic and Christian, I actually approach it in a different way. I actually approach it from the humanistic version where yes. I am no better than the other person. Right. And so who am I to tell another person what they can and cannot do, as long as they are not doing harm to my fellow individual. Absolutely. Then my opinion is moot, right? Like I really don't have that. I think in schools, the principle of all men are created equal. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's debate about how that was actually meant, but and how it was employed. But I really do think that is the basis of principles for worldly rights, whether we're in the United States or across the board. I cannot tell another person who to be and how to be, right? As long as they are doing no harm to themselves or another, then the Catholic tradition of treat each other as we would like to be treated should be there. And if I don't want to be limited in any way or told that I'm not good enough, then I have no right to tell another person that.
Okay, beautiful. What is your opinion on parents? You just have a son or a little daughter, and kids, when they're young, they play with all kinds of toys, be it a doll or... But who is a parent to decide, because your son played with a doll at the age of 2 years or 3 years, that's natural. To say, oh, you know what, my son, he wants to be a girl, start dressing him in girl stuff, or start going to the doctor, getting advice how to transform his private parts into the opposite sex, or whatever the case may be. Do you think that is actually robbing a child from out of its dignity and the ability to make decisions on its own when that child comes to age?
So that's a question that I ponder quite a bit, having clients that are transitioning. And I think that children will naturally flow to where they need to be, and children will play with the toys that they need to. They will dress the way that they would like, as long as the parent is supportive in one way or the other. I think there is legislation that is in process that is limiting the age. So saying that there cannot be any gender transitioning until a certain age, when the cognitive part of our brain actually catches up to the physical and the emotional part, which sort of catches up. And that's not until they're in their 18 to 24 stage. So I think at that point in time, then legislation should be, I don't know if it should be supported or not. I don't really have a strong opinion one side or the other, but I do believe that the only role of a parent is to be supportive, accepting, and have unconditional love of their child, but to guide them as well. So but children will go where they need to go, and if you have raised a headstrong child, whether or not they decide ultimately to transition from boy to girl or girl to boy, they will make that decision later on in their life, no matter what.
Okay. Well, and do you think government should abstract from or abstain themselves from trying to create any form of legislation when it comes to this sort of behavior? Because I believe that if people are going to make choices, let them make it on their own. Why do government has to be in every single thing of people's lives? I think this is creating more animosity, more confusion than anything else. Could this be something where if I grow to be 18, 24 years of age and I want to do that, so be it. But, well, you know what? You may very well be right, because I don't think a parent should be able to change a child's life at an age where it can make a decision for itself. So on that premise, I could totally understand that. For other matters, I still think that a government should abstain from being part of some decisions in people's lives. It's like stating you don't have the power or the authority or right to make decisions on your own. Why do we necessarily need government to do everything for us?
Right. Well, I think the government legislation that is out there is more geared towards parents who may proactively attempt at or assist their child in transitioning at an earlier stage. And the medical profession is saying, why don't we just wait until they're more fully developed and through? But I do understand the need for hitting pre-puberty, because then the hormonal changes would be shifted. So I really don't have enough information about the legislation to make a final judgment, but I do think our government is very involved, but I don't know if it is a smart or not smart decision in that reign, because I feel like if we allow legislation, then maybe the unaccepting party will control that legislation, and it'll be very difficult for us to honor the true identity of our children should they wish to transition. I don't know if
absolutely. I think, period, that there shouldn't be, and this is just my opinion, I don't think there should be any form of transitioning. I think if you're born with a female body part and a male body part, it doesn't matter what you want to do, that's your business. No form of taxpayers' money or even your money, or it should even be legal for doctors to transform your body. Sicknesses and operations is fine for different sicknesses and diseases and body growth, etc. But I think that word transitioning, sexual transitioning, and this is my opinion, should be illegal. If you want to be gay, fine. If you want to be a lesbian, fine. But I don't think transforming your body part should be fine. It just shouldn't be legal. I think it's natural deception. And that in itself, as weird as it may seem, can cause more problems in this world than anything else. We know for a fact there's times where a guy will fall in love with a woman and only to know 6 months into the relationship when they want to get intimate, the woman tells the man, well, I was born a man and transition. And the man is looking for a woman to give him kids. And then she say, well, you know what? I'm still the same person you fall in love with. No, you're not. Then the guy get psychotic and take a gun and blow her brain out. Someone gone to jail. Or may just flip and start targeting women who had been transitioning and start gunning down women that were men before. And I think these are things that government and people don't necessarily look at. But simple things like these are major triggers to how some people of the extreme side view things. You fall in love with a beautiful woman or you fall in love with a handsome man to recognize when you go to bed, the man is not a man, he is a woman that pretending to be a man. And she snaps, either poison him or stab him to death or shoot him to death. And there's someone going to jail that just got deceived that shouldn't. So I think that the ability for government to analyze these things in terms of transitioning should be legal, even based on those concepts. What would be your professional opinion on that?
Well, I think I love how you, it's always the worst case scenario. But I think that's where you have to practice as an individual, like your beliefs that every human being is a human being and we have to love them as we love ourselves. I don't believe in limiting another person. I don't know how I feel about the funding, like you had mentioned, the federal funding and whatnot. But I do believe in if a person is born a man and would like to be a woman, I think there needs to be accountability and responsibility to avoid the situations that you talk about, where they are deciding to transition to another gender, that they have the responsibility to make that known immediately to the other person that they have a love interest for. I think it's absolutely irresponsible of that individual to falsify who they are. But I just might be I think just because of my practice, my field and my human side, that I just accept, I will accept you who you are, as you are, and welcome you no matter what, and support you as best as I can, as long as you are not doing harm to another person. And that's...
Well, that is very beautiful coming from a professional adult. I can agree with you more. But for the average individual,
it's hard. It's
really hard. I mean, I've watched shows where, and you heard of Jerry Springer, and from time to time I would watch him, even though it was a ridiculous show. There were people who fell in love with people only to recognize that the person who they fell in love with weren't who they thought they was in love with, right? And something
that can happen regardless of gender. Like that's, like I was married to a man, and my marriage just didn't work. No matter how good at it I was, and no matter how hard I worked at it, no matter how compassionate, and no matter all the stuff that I had done, it just didn't work. You need to have two individuals make it work, regardless of gender.
Well, yes, I guess birds of a feather flock together. They will have to find that.
I think what I tell the clients and the students that I encounter all the time, just, own who you are, know who you are, take the time to figure out who you are. Don't let another person tell you who you are, and don't go with the flow. If you're in a group, it's okay to be the only heterosexual person in a group of homosexual individuals. It is okay to accept friends of all different backgrounds, all different kinds of ways of life. So just as long as you are not doing harm to another person and you accept yourself and love yourself, you can love the other person.
Well, that's beautifully said. Well, we have come to the end of our program, and to all those who have been tuning in on Living in the 21st Century, I want to say have a nice day. Dr. Kfoury, it's a pleasure having you on. We
Thank you.
will
It was a
continue to be
pleasure.
on. Okay. We'll take good care.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.